Hi friends, welcome to IASN College Connect YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about what is reactive form. Reactive form is a model-driven approach to handle the forms in the Angular. In reactive form, we write the conditions for the form control programmatically, that is in TypeScript file. Reactive form is used for some complex forms. So before we are going to deep dive into the reactive form, we should know about some of the features like what is form control, form group, and form builder. Let's see what is a form control. So here in HTML file, we are having the text box. In TypeScript file, we are going to write a conditions for this particular text box through form control. The form control represents a single form input element and keeps a tracks of its value, validation status, and changes the form control is used to define a single input field in a reactive form, which it handles the form value, validations, and ability to update and reset the form field programmatically. Each form control will be going to define in the TypeScript file by using form control only. So now we are going to see what is form group. The form group is a collection of form control. In text in HTML file, we are having more than one form control like text box, drop down bar, drop down, and then password, input type password. Okay, so we are going to group all the form control under one form group. The form group is nothing but it is a collection of form control. It is a collection of form control. It allows us to group of multiple form control together in a single entity. Here we are going to group all the form control under one single entity by using form group. In case any of the input text is going to be invalid means so that entire form is going to be invalid. So then the next one we are going to say is what is form builder. Form builder is a service that simplifies the creations of form reactive form. It provides the methods to easily create a form group, form control and form array. So let's deep dive into this, how to implement the reactive forms in the Visual Studio Code. So now we are going to implement in the TypeScript file. So before we are going to start implementing the reactive form, the first thing you need to do is we need to import the reactive forms module. Then moving to this HTML file, we are going to create a form tag. Inside this form tag, I'm just going to create one input control, which is going to be used to get a username from the user. So it is going to be input type is going to be text and then placeholder is going to be a username. Now you see we created the form controls in the HTML file. Now we need to bind this form control to the TypeScript file. So for that I'm just going to create a form group. So form group, which is going to be type of form gr is going to be type of form group. Okay, so I'm going to put exclamatory symbol. So now I'm just going to create a constructor. In the constructor, I'm just going to inject the form builder. So constructor is going to be called before the ng on init. So inside this constructor, I'm just going to inject form builder. Form builder. Its form B is going to be type of form builder. So now we are going to inside the ng on init, we are going to create all the form controls so that I'm just going to implement on init. So it asks us to implement the unimplement method. So I'm just importing it. Now you see inside this ng on init, we are going to bind this particular form control which we having in the HTML file. So inside this ng on init, I'm just going to use the reference of form group this dot form group equal to this dot form builder. Now we are going to group it. So I'm just going to use a group. Inside this, I'm just going to use key and value pair. For each control, I'm just going to use key and value pair. Further, I'm just going to create the reference for this form username or first name username. So for this username, what are the conditions I'm going to write? So first I'm just going to initialize to null, and then I'm just going to write the validation for this. So this validators dot required field, validators dot required. Okay, so this field is mandatory. This field is mandatory. User need to give. So whereas in the template driven form, we are going to write this required field on the HTML control itself. In the HTML file control, in the control itself, we are going to write it like this. But here you see, we are going to write the validations in the TypeScript file. So what we return, this username should be the required. But as of now, we are not bind this form control validations to the HTML file. How we are going to bind it means, first we are going to use inside this form tag. So we are going to use form group. Okay, so we are going to use a form group. We are going to give the naming for this particular form group. So, okay, so this is going to bind this TypeScript towards the HTML file. So now we are creating it. So under this, I'm going to use form control name to bind this particular control which we mentioned on the TypeScript file. Okay, so I'm copy pasting this HTML username from the TypeScript towards this HTML file. Now you see we bind this conditions which we mean for the particular control, that is validation is required. This field is required. Now you see we are going to check this condition whether the user is given the values or not. So for that the same conditions what we written on the template driven form, the same thing. Okay, so star ng if equal to, so first we need to access the control means this controller, that is username, is exist inside the form group, so that we need to use the form group first. So here we are going to first access the form group. Inside this form group we are having username. Here you see inside this form group we are having username, this username only. Okay, so I'm copying this control and I'm going to paste it over here. So here I'm going to check this value is given by user or not. For that I'm just going to put this errors. Okay. So dot required error dot inside this I'm just going to mention the condition required. Okay. So now I'm just going to close this div tag. Inside this div tag I'm just going to type for username, sorry, first name, right? Okay, so sorry, username is required. User name is required. Okay, so why we are getting this error message? ng star. I need to save it, I hope. Form group f4.get first name question mark errors. Okay, so I missed to put the question marks. Okay, so now you see we done. Okay, so here I'm just going to run this code ng serve hyphen o. What I did. Okay, so now we created the form tag. So we need to create and we need to bind this form control, that is form control, this control towards a TypeScript file. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the form group property binding. So I'm just going to give the name which I mentioned it on here. Okay, so here is the form group. Okay, so inside this form group only we are having form control. Okay, so validations, all those things we return, right? Okay, so that I'm just using form group to bind this particular form towards a TypeScript file. Then we are having on input control. To, for that input control, I written some validations. Those validations I mention it on here. Okay, so that is validators are required. Okay, to access it, I'm just going to use form control name. We need to give the same name. So that should be followed by, so I'm just going to check the condition by using ngif. Okay, so which ngif, it is going to check whether this form group, okay, so form control is exit inside this form control only. Sorry, for inside this form form group only, we are having form control, that is username, right? So form group, okay, so then inside this form username, okay, so under this form group only, we are having the username. Under this form group only, we are having the username, so that I'm accessing the form group first, that should be followed by username. I'm checking whether this values, the user is given the values for the particular field or not. In case user is not given the values, I'm just going to throw an error message, username is required. Okay, now you see, now we are getting this error message. Okay, after typing this error message is made. But have you noted one thing? So before that is while loading itself, here it is throwing an error message. Username is required. So it is not correct one, right? Okay, so when the user is going to touch it or type something, okay, so then only it is going to throw an error message. Okay, so for that, I'm going to check one more condition, that is ampersand. I'm going to put the ampersand symbol. I'm going to write the same conditions over here. Okay, so but here I'm going to check the state of it. Okay, so copy it. I'm going to paste it over here. So that is the error. Okay, so that is user is touched or not. Okay, so user is okay. So then only it need to throw an error message. Okay, or here you see user, if the user is now you see the error message is made. Okay, so when the user is touched it and made means then only it is throwing an error message. Hope you understand how to implement reactive form in the Angular. If you like this video, please share this video with your friends and please click the subscribe button and bell button. Thank you.